Right, I'm delighted to be joined by Paulie Malignaggi. You've got a massive fight coming up in BKB. Tell me all about it. Tyler Goodjohn, tough fight.
Yeah. We didn't want an easy one. We wanted a fight that would bring both a test of my ability and a test of whether I should be doing this or not, as well as um, the name recognition in the opponent that would bring both respectability and promotability to the event. And I come from a world where I was in a lot of big, massive events. Granted, I don't expect to just jump back right back into huge, massive events, but I did want an opponent that would, like I said, bring those two qualities: respectability as a fighter, and as a rated fighter and accomplishments, as well as a promotable guy who is, has a lot of that going for him as well. And I think that we've done that.
100%. I mean, you've conquered the world of boxing, winning two world championship belts. How far do you want to push this BKB dream?
My goal is to win a BKB World Championship. I think that would be real cool. I work at Pro Box TV with Chris Algieri, who's been a world boxing champion as well as a world kickboxing champion. So, two-sport world champion is it sounds pretty cool as a title, and so that would be the ideal result. I take things one at a time because at 44 years old, you really don't want to look ahead at any given point. You take one thing at a time. I've taken the training camp itself as one thing at a time. I have really not really focused on Tyler at all. We once we decided it was Tyler and he fit the criteria. I haven't really thought of Goodjohn at all. I thought mostly about myself and getting the best of myself and overcoming the hurdle of getting the best of myself at this age and what that brings me to. And I feel like it's brought me to a good place. So I would be foolish to look too far ahead. Besides that, but being that you're asking the question, yeah, that would be really cool to be a two-sport world champion. But it's something that I take in little steps, one step at a time, and see what leads to what.
100%. I mean, I've been told off camera how much this fight means to you. I know that you and Ricky Hatton, once rivals, two of the greatest fighters on the planet, and then developed a friendship, really, a fantastic relationship. Tell me about
Yeah.
him, what essentially fighting for him means, and just the friendship that you and Ricky had with each
Oh,
other.
yeah. I really, with respect to the family, not wanted to make this all about Ricky. Because I think with his family has the right to mourn in the way they need to mourn. I was an outsider who had fought Ricky, and we become friendly after our rivalry inside the ring. Um, what it means to me is just the awareness. What just happened to Ricky is the awareness. And I've said this in a couple of interviews already. Sometimes we just think everybody's okay, and there were many times I came to the UK after I fought Ricky, and we've even become friendly. And there were several times we'd hung out, and many times we did not hang out when I came to the UK. And a lot of times I thought about reaching out to him, but I thought, Ricky Hatton, he's famous. He's got so much going on for himself. What does he want to hear from me for? I'm just here for a few days to work with a commentary gig. Ricky doesn't want to really hear from me. He's too busy. I don't want to bother him. And I think the lesson is that, I'd rather be told by a friend that he doesn't have time for me rather than wonder later if maybe I should have asked him if he had time for me. Because I think those moments of loneliness happen to people that we least expected sometimes. And I think that's been the thing that I've personally taken out of this. I could never be as sad as his family is. I could never be as sad as the people who really were close to him and loved him were. And I know how close they were to him. And I was around him for about 18 months straight. And I know he had a tight knit people and tight knit group around him, especially his family that loved him so much. So I could never feel the pain they feel. But the lesson is that, if I could put it into words.
Fantastic words there, Paulie. And I wanted to ask you about your experience being involved in the Ricky Hatton circus. I mean, I don't think in Britain we'll ever see anybody ever again who's able to take over 30,000 fans to Las Vegas from the UK, with most of them not even getting into the venue. So what were your experiences like with fighting at the City of Manchester Stadium and then obviously being in the
Well,
ring in Vegas and obviously Liam
well,
Gallagher, I think, getting in your face as well?
yeah, yeah. That's the thing. I mean, it's all an experience. I think we take our boxing careers at the end of it, and we have to look at it as a chapter in our life that comes and it goes. And it's pretty interesting, some of the experiences. And Ricky was an interesting part of my career. both the rivalry we had and then some of the escapades and antics that came along with it. You know, from Ricky Hatton outfit in Etihad in Manchester Stadium, to my fight on the undercard at Manchester Stadium with my hair, you know, getting all over the place. Um, I remember one of the things I fondly remember was we had a press conference in Manchester to announce the fight him and I were going to have in November. We had it in early September, and I remember I'm a huge football fan. Football is my first sport, actually, as far as me being a fan of it. I am a boxer, but I love soccer, football, you know. And I remember they got me tickets to Manchester United versus Villarreal, you know, and Villarreal at the time had Giuseppe Rossi, who I'm friends with, you know, who was an Italian American born in Jersey, who was on the Italian national team for a little while. He was on Villarreal for a little while. So I remember that. That was a pretty cool experience. We stayed in we went together, mind you. And Ricky's a City fan, so I don't know if I'm putting him out there. You know that he got us United. Well, you know, it was United playing in the Champions League that week. That week, so you know that. And so we went to the game. We all went together, his team and my team. And that's what I'm saying. It was very. I was at that point in my career somebody that was easy to dislike when you fought me. I was very irritable. I was a very irritating person on purpose as part of my marketing tools. It was hard to make myself unlikable to Ricky. I'm sure I did in some ways, but his team was so cool and so nice and so enjoyable to be around that he is one of the rare people in boxing that I could probably have been friends with even outside of boxing. Where if I'd not met him in boxing, if I'd just met him out and we'd become friendly, I think we could have had a friendship regardless because we had similar tastes, similar kind of people, similar quality, similar even background mindset. Um, where everything's not perfect, but you believe in a certain standard. And I think Ricky had that too. It was cool. And I remember actually the press conference we had earlier that day. They had made me a frame. It was this terrific frame with pictures from my fight a few months back at Etihad with the hair and everything, and my fight with Endo. And they had made me a nice frame, and there was actually pictures. There was cutouts of my hair. Because somebody, I guess the ring cleaner had taken the hair, and somehow Ricky's team had gotten a hold of him and made them, give it to them. And so some of the hair dreadlocks were in this frame. It was such a cool frame. It was a whole mess of a press conference, with media and people talking to you. And, I just assume somebody on my team is going to just make sure they have a hold of that frame. Because I certainly, I get it 1 second on the dais, but then I'm talking to media. I'm dealing, I never got that frame back. Never got
You're
it.
joking.
I have my manager call Paul speak. Somebody left that press conference, that frame. It's in somebody's house to this day, and they will never come out. They will never come forward. It's in somebody's house to this day. I never saw it after that day. Never saw it again.
I mean, obviously, Ricky
Yeah,
Hatton
it,
had such an
it was.
impact on your career, but he wasn't the only Brit who had an impact. Because I know before you turned pro, you used to love the big fights, and then the legendary Prince Naseem Hamed rocked up into New York,
Yeah,
posters everywhere. He's fighting Kevin Kelly. I know you were desperate to get to that fight, and then an unsung hero
yeah,
helped you get in. So tell me that story.
yeah. That's a story that's funny. I like telling the story because it's funny how and the most subtle things impact you. I was just starting to box. I started boxing in June 97. So December 19th, 1997, Hamed is scheduled to fight Kevin Kelly. And one thing I noticed about the Hamed Kelly promotion was it was different than many promotions in boxing. Even by 90 standards, where boxing may have been a little bit bigger. I mean, Hamed was everywhere in New York City. He was on the trains in billboards. He was in Times Square in billboards. He was above the Holland Tunnel on a billboard. I mean, this was massive. And Kevin used to train in Gleason's gym where I was working out at. So I had met Kevin. Me as an impressionable teenager, Kevin had been so nice to me in the gym that I was rooting for Kevin, going into the fight. But I noticed this huge event. So I saw in the newspapers at the time, there was, everything was promoted in newspapers. There was no internet. And I saw that the cheapest ticket was $25. So I scrounged up literally my last $25. I asked some friends if they wanted to go with me. Nobody was interested. So I took the train by myself, took two tokens. At the time, there were tokens. Um, Two tokens each, one to get there, one to get back home. And exactly $25. That's all I had. Just enough to get into the arena, and I didn't care about snacks. I didn't care about anything. I didn't have a single amateur fight yet. I was just boxing for 6 months, and I got there, and it was there was $2 surcharge. These surcharges they like to put on these things, and I didn't have it. I didn't have the $2, and luckily there was a really nice woman that was behind the ticket counter, and she saw the disappointment in my face. It was genuine. I mean, when she told me he's 27, I kind of made this face like, no, like I got all the way over here, and I remember she looked to the right, see if her supervisor was looking, and she slid me the ticket. And that was so funny how it's life changing, because that experience that night was, I mean, I stayed from the deep undercard. I was in the nosebleed seats where my nose probably was bleeding from how far away from the ring I was. And I just sat in my seat, didn't even move. Sometimes people try to move and get closer. I didn't want to risk even getting kicked out. I didn't want to. I was just happy that somebody had been nice enough to let me in where I would come up short. I just appreciatively sat in my seat and watched the entire show. It was funny. Who was on that undercard in a 4-rounder was Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton was on an undercard in a 4-rounder. So little did I know, my future was staring in front of me when he was fighting in a 4-rounder in there, because he's in a 4-round fight. Nobody really knows him yet. And I myself have not even won amateur fight, let alone a pro fight. So little do we know that 11 years from then, we'll be main eventing in the MGM Grand against one another. But an impactful night. Hamed was an absolute showman. Kevin Kelly gave a great fight. I went there rooting for Kelly. On the way home, I just kept replaying what I saw, and I was just absolutely amazed with what the Hamed aura had brought to the Garden, to New York, to boxing. And I just kept repeating to myself on the train ride home, I have to do this. I have to feel this. I have to feel that. I need to that. It wasn't just I hope to. It was like I must feel that. Like I have to. What they felt tonight, I have to feel that. It was something that came over me, and I never let go of that dream. And I mean, it kept taking me forward all these years. So it was a big moment, a subtle but big moment, and thankfully to that woman for getting me that ticket, because I wouldn't have experienced it to that degree.
Yeah, you achieved that dream not once, but twice, with the second time coming in the Ukraine. Tell me about that whole experience with Senchenko, because fighting in that part of the world must have been crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it was, because now there's a place, it's part of the world where there's a war, literally in Donetsk. It's funny, we fought in speaking of football stadiums, we talked about that. I fought in Etihad before it was called Etihad. I also fought in the Shakhtar Donetsk stadium when I beat Senchenko. And Shakhtar Donetsk at the time, had been a UEFA Cup or Europa League champions a couple of years before. They had some good investments into the team, and they had been a solid European level team. Um, Along with Dynamo Kiev, who was the main standard in Ukrainian football. But uh, Shakhtar had been putting on some very good performances in the years leading up into that, and they had a state of the art football stadium. I mean, absolute state of the art. I mean, they had just built it. Euro 2012 was going to be there in a few months, so they had just remodeled the entire city, built an airport, top of the line stadium. I mean, top of the line. And we fought in the stadium, and it was again another great experience for me, winning a world championship there. It was unexpected. I was an underdog going into the fight, going into the champion's hometown, and it was certainly something that you know most people didn't think I could achieve. I went there with a lot of self-belief, and it's boxing, combat sports. They're up and down. You learn one thing: whether people believe in you or whether people don't believe in you, it has no bearing on the result. Your opponent doesn't care. Your opponent is there to beat you. So that's the belief of other people, or the doubt of other people doesn't give you the result. What gives you the result is what you do in there. So that's how I prepared for that fight. Everywhere I was looking, nobody thought I was going to win that fight. So it was more so about my preparation and focusing on me. And that's kind of what I've attempted to do here in this camp after being away for so long. And instead of focusing on Tyler Goodjohn and focusing on everything, I just focus on myself and being the best I can be. And for the Sinchenko fight, it certainly worked out, and we became world champion for the second time.
Yeah, and for your boxing, you've had loads of amazing opportunities. A couple of them that I want to ask you about. I know that you were in EA Sport Fight Night Round 4. Tell me what it was like to be in that game. And you were also in the movie Undefeated as well, right, in 2003. So any behind the scenes stories from that?
Um, yeah, the fight night I wasn't too happy. They gave me a bad chin, which I always thought I had a pretty good chin. So I don't know. I wasn't too happy about that, because obviously they're not gonna give me great knockout power, but then they gave me a bad chin in the video game. So I wasn't thrilled about that, to be honest, to be fair. But I was in the game. It was cool. I also did a commercial when they revamped the Titans Punch Out video game. They brought it back as Punch Out on the Nintendo Wii, and I was in the commercials on television, and it was like a 30-day run where the commercials were really promoting that video game a lot. And so I remember being on TV, watching TV, and there was a 1 month period in 2009 where I was constantly seeing myself on TV in this commercial, you know? It was, I think the extended version of the commercial may be on YouTube. The shortened 30-second version that was on TV, I haven't seen on YouTube, but the extended cut of the commercial was on YouTube. It's kind of funny if people want to see it. I played Little Mac, who is the main character in the Punch-Out video game. And then the movie Undefeated was just a boxing. I don't think it was kind of low budget, honest to be honest. But it was fun to work with John Leguizamo in it because he was the main protagonist. So that was pretty cool. I've done some small acting, sometimes in coinciding with my boxing, and sometimes not even coinciding with my boxing. I've been in some gangster movies and some TV shows. But nothing to brag about. Just fun stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And in your boxing career, you were one of the best trash talkers on the planet, as well as one of the best fighters on the planet. Who was your favorite person to trash talk? And is there any line that you ever came out with where you thought that was a good one, that one was nasty?
Um, I think the most fun I had in trash talking press conference with Adrian Broner. I think that was a highlight because Broner's a good trash talker. I was a good trash talker, and there is rarely there's one thing about being a trash talker, but I think sometimes it's overrated. I think in order to be a good trash talker, you have to be witty. And myself and Broner were pretty witty. Like for example, people look at Mayweather like he's a trash talker, but I don't find Mayweather to be that witty. It's him just talking. And I think when he was in the press conference with Conor McGregor, you could see he didn't have the quick answers that you would need, in a witty situation, witty trash talking situation. So being a real good trash talker to me is knowing how to think on the fly. It's not just rehearsing what you're going to say. It's also being able to give rebuttals when your opponent also knows how to trash talk. And I thought that's why the Broner press conferences were so. I mean, some people would think they were a bit extreme, but I thought they were very challenging in a comedic way.
100%. Paulie, thank you so much for giving me some time. I really appreciate it. But before I let you go, is there anything else that you would like to mention?
No, that's it, man. I just want to thank people that have helped me in this training camp. I've achieved some of the goals that we've already achieved. Mainly addicts, mace clubs. And doing my strength work with them. They've really, They really helped me to prepare my body for the boxing that I was doing. And then the various people that have helped me, in doing the boxing from the big parts to the small parts. Like even Chris Algieri, Anthony Crawler, Bobby Davies, my people at Pro Box TV for letting me use the Pro Box Event Center, like Gary Jonas and Daniel Rubin, a Rival Boxing Gear for giving me the Rival Boxing Gear to train with. Um, you know, uh, it's been good. Chris Glauber for organizing things when I get over to the UK as well. Um, it's been a lot of good people. Sub Bro sponsorships as well. Vitamins Sub Bro, their sponsorship. They're a vitamin company. I really appreciate everything they've done for me as well. That's you know I think Fight Book as well. Fight Book, they were good. They're good people. Um, yeah, it's been a lot of people played a small part here, and even if you play a small part, it all adds up to one big part, and it's helped me. All the support has been good, and it's been fun to go through with this. Sometimes I still can't believe I got through it. We had an injury in camp, we got through it, and I really feel good. So I really am looking forward to seeing what we got on Fight Night because I feel very confident.